Welcome to Season 3 of The Good Pod. Today's podcast is presented by Dr. Barry Napier.
What do you think of prayer meetings? Now, I will say that though I'm only giving a very brief summary of what I'm going to talk about, it is based on years of research into the topic. And I've also written a book on prayer, so this is a big one. If you get it wrong, then there's repercussions, isn't there? Now then, prayer is a vital activity. We must all take note of it and practice prayer. There's no doubt about that. But how about a little honesty about meetings? Hands up, all those believers who think that the midweek prayer meeting is the most boring meeting they have ever attended. Hands up too if you make all sorts of excuses for not going, but you later feel guilty because you don't attend. Then join the queue, for thousands feel the same way, but are too afraid to say so. It is peculiar, but this argument applies even if you think prayer meetings are exciting. To be clear, this podcast is not about prayer itself. It is about the way we try to do it. Make it a regular scheduled meeting. That is the prayer meeting. Should they exist at all? will say straight up now, before we go into the podcast, I do not believe in them. You have probably been told, as I was, that the prayer meeting is the very core of local church life, or that without a lively prayer meeting, a church is spiritually dead, or something along those lines. Yes? Let me throw a bomb into these claims by saying, A, I gave up attending these vital meetings many years ago, and B, prayer meetings as we know them today are not found in Scripture. Now you can fight me on this as you wish, but as I say, I have the material there if you want to see it, and it's on our website or in the book. Now then, before you emit gasps of horror and consign me to the heretic bin, let me show you why I say these things. For over 20 years I dutifully attended prayer meetings. Most times I attended, I came away more depressed than uplifted, as I listened to those fluent prayer warriors, as they're called, who could pray birds down from the trees. By contrast, I could hardly ever think of anything to say, and when I did say something, I was often halting and feeble when put against the words of those great warriors. And if there was one of those terrifying circular prayers going on, where each person prays in turn, inevitably I would be the one of the very last ones to pray, and by that time everyone else had said it all. Now, isn't that true? Yes. Come now, friends, does all this ring true in your experience? Of course it does. No, I am not trying to be clever or sarcastic, just honest. Many have already confessed their own thoughts to me on this very thing over the years, so I know it exists. But for me, everything changed. A tiny bit of truth entered my head after those 20 years, and I admitted that what I was doing did not somehow tie in with what I thought Scripture said. So I started to examine what the Bible said about prayer, and the results were eye-opening. Let me summarize what was discovered. It seemed odd to me that the most vital meeting of all was the one that was the least attended. Not only that, but the problem appeared to be widespread. Now, if a medical doctor is faced with the same symptoms in different people over a wide area, he will naturally and quickly try to find out what is going on. He will start research or inform the proper authorities because the disease had assumed epidemic proportion. The cause will hopefully be found and rooted out, and the disease can be controlled or even eradicated. So why doesn't this same thing happen in our churches? Strangely, this most common and widespread disease is not dealt with. Instead, few churches face it, and it is rarely brought into the open. After all, to admit that your prayer meeting is badly attended consistently is to admit there is something radically wrong with the members or the pastor. Or is that true? No, not necessarily. In the Bible, which should be the source and checklist for all our actions and beliefs, we do not find prayer meetings. That is, the regular, scheduled prayer meetings we have in our churches today. So that's right, no prayer meetings. But you might shout, what about this or that instance when the apostles met and prayed together? With much respect, I would ask you to read those texts again, for they do not speak of regular prayer meetings as we know them today. Rather, they speak of special, impromptu gatherings of people with a like mind. That is, God prompted each one of them to meet for a specific purpose, at the same time to pray about one specific urgent thing. Nothing was scheduled a year in advance and undertaken for 1 hour every week. Don't you see the illogic of that? That God only comes to you on a Wednesday at 7 o'clock and he finishes at 8. Please, please think more deeply on it. In Scripture, something urgent and important was going on, and the people concerned all had the overwhelming God-led desire to deal with it by going direct to the Lord in prayer, not weekly, but as and when needed. Now, that is not what happened in any prayer meeting I have ever attended. And I doubt very much if any of you have experienced such a dynamic and powerful thing either. What many call dynamic is really emotionalism, and I've seen a lot of emotion expressed in prayer meetings. Am I saying that the modern prayer meeting is useless? Frankly, yes. I do not speak of true prayer here, only of false prayer, made false because it is a scheduled meeting. Tell me, if scheduled prayer meetings are so vital and of God, why are churches so dead? Look at the prayer meetings. Firstly, they are duly slotted into the regular weekly routine, and that is the biggest mistake. Prayer is meant to be impromptu and offered at any time. Secondly, at these prayer meetings, the prayer warriors always take pride of place. But are they all prayer warriors, or are some just people with golden tongues who love to speak in public? On that point, remember the Pharisees. The question is tough but necessary. Thirdly, these prayers are either very broad or very personal. The first is useless, and the second is not for public ears. Indeed, Christ instructed us to pray in private. So how do we reconcile this command to pray alone and modern prayer meetings? We just can't justify it. When the apostles and others prayed together, they prayed with one accord about a single urgent matter. Once said, the prayer meeting was over. We're not told that there were regular meetings. To have regular meetings is to say that we can all pray to order without God's prompting. Men love to organise everybody else, hence the regular meetings of any kind. And if somebody does not attend, they must be at fault, maybe even backsliders. Could it be simply that people instinctively realise something is amiss, and that is why they do not attend prayer meetings? I know that this podcast would touch on many honest doubts. Now is the time to face them. If, however, you feel uncomfortable or even angry, ask yourself why. Is it because something you've done all your life has just been shown to be useless? This podcast is a very serious comment on what I believe to be an unjustified and unbiblical demand to attend weekly prayer meetings. If you want more, read my more detailed article on our website or the book on prayer.